Hey guys, this video is about matter, and we're going to talk about matter just a little bit to make sure you understand what it is. Okay, so for example, uh, what is the best material to use in the manufacturing of chopsticks? Now, a lot of people say plastic, some people say wood, but we have to be more specific to what we're looking for. Okay, what do I mean by specific? I mean a certain species of wood. In that case, if you're thinking bamboo, that is correct. But why bamboo specifically? It is heat resistant, it is inexpensive or cheap, it has no taste or odor, it is disposable with no pollution, and has properties that make it a good choice. Okay, so bamboo is one of the best uh, materials to use for chopsticks, and also it's readily available. All right. Okay. Now, ways to describe matter. Now, remember, matter is anything you can hold in your hands, essentially. Something you can see, something tangible, something you can measure. Okay? So, mass is a way to describe matter. So, mass is a measure of the amount of matter the object contains. Okay? In this case, you need to use a balance. All right? So, without a balance, you will not be able to determine the mass of the object. Now the next thing is volume. Volume is a measure of the space occupied by an object. Length times width times height. Okay? So both mass and volume are examples of what we call extensive properties. Now I don't find these too important, but they're necessary for you guys to see. Okay, what extensive properties are? Well, extensive properties depend on the amount of matter present. And there's also another term called intensive properties, which we do not depend on the amount of matter present. So intensive properties of some matter include melting point, boiling point, density, and the ability to conduct electricity and transfer energy as heat are some intensive properties of matter. Now, here's an important question for you. How do you identify what makes up something as simple as a soda can? Okay, well, nowadays soda cans have more than just aluminum in them, but soda can is majority aluminum. Okay, but how do you identify that? Well, you're going to identify it by its texture, its ability to resist wear, and its ability to take and hold the pressurized soda inside without exploding. Okay, so we're going to get into something called a substance. Now, substance is a way to classify matter. Okay, substance is very important, especially in chemistry. It's matter that has uniform and definite composition. So we're going to look at many different types of substances. All right. So now each of the following are different from one another. So let's look at these three substances right here. We have salt, sugar, and water. And when I say water, I mean pure water. Not water in a creek, not water in an ocean, not bathtub water. We're talking pure water, which we have here at school called deionized water, where everything has been removed. Okay, or we can even look at something like distilled water. Now salt is just simply, for example, table salt is NaCl. This substance is different from this substance. Sugar has CHNO, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and a different amount of them. And water has HNO, H2O. So these three substances, okay, are all different by their compositions, okay, what they're made up of. Okay. Now, each substance has its own unique physical properties. Okay, therefore, to identify a substance and to be able to differentiate it from another substance, we can compare their physical properties. Okay, so for example, salt and sugar. Salt has a very high melting point, whereas sugar has a very low melting point. So those substances can be uh, determined to be different if you didn't know what they were. So you can actually do a test on them to figure out which one is which based off their melting points. Okay, so that leads us up into the physical properties. Is a quality or condition of a substance that can be observed or measured without changing the substance's composition. Okay, so physical properties. Let's look at them. We have the color. We could differentiate two substances by their color. Okay, luster, how shiny something is. Melting point is where you go from a solid to a liquid. What point is the melting point? Okay, some substances have different melting points. Boiling point, okay, is where you go from a liquid to a gas. All substances have a different boiling point. Solubility is how well something dissolves in a solvent. Okay, hardness, as it says, how hard it is, how much energy it takes to break it. Density and molecular mass. We'll talk about these later on. Now here's a table of physical properties. Pause the video and check it out. You can see that like these chemicals right here, or these substances, they all have different boiling points, okay, in Celsius. They all have different densities, and they all have different melting points. So you can differentiate between these here based on their melting point, boiling point, and densities. So pause the video and take a look at that table. Okay. And that's where we're stopping.